Hello, I want to show you today disassembly and reassembly of Bergmann 1896, model number 2, the second variation, the one with the extractor. First of all, I want to note that when you do work like this one, it's very important to have a proper toolkit, especially when you have to deal with a lot of screws that are mostly non-standard. It's very important to have the right screwdriver tips to avoid screwing your screws. So let's start with the bolt. First of all, we need to remove that screw that keeps the firing pin in place. So put gun in cocked position, and on a new gun, firing pin should get out easily. But unfortunately for old gun, we would need to help it. So to do that, we lock the bolt back to get access to firing pin, and then use a punch to carefully help firing pin get out of the bolt. Light taps, and as you can see, we have enough to grab and pull firing pin out. Just carefully remove that. Then you can remove the locking wedge that keeps bolt and recoil spring in place. So now the spring and the bolt can be easily removed. When you do that, you need to keep hammer a little bit pressed to let it slide easily. Next, we will disassemble the magazine. First, we remove screw that keeps the magazine door. The door won't go out easily until the plunger keep pressure on follower. So you see, you can move it a little bit, but not completely. So let's remove plunger first to release that tension. Not very convenient position to unscrew, but I'm trying to keep it on video. Especially because I have to do it with my right hand and I'm a lefty. So we remove screw, and then we remove plunger and spring that keep follower under tension. And now we can remove the side door and follower. That follower pushes rounds from the clip up to be fed into chamber. Next, let's remove grip scales. It's very easy in standard operation. You just remove one screw. And here you can see the main spring that pushes the hammer. Next, let's remove the trigger. That's very interesting trigger group for me because it's very simple and very easy to make on almost any equipment. So if you have ever to recreate the civilization, definitely you should consider this trigger system as an option to recreate classic firearms. So here is a trigger, disconnector, sear spring, and hammer. And main spring. And pay attention that all springs that provide enough tension are flat springs, because at that time it was impossible to create long-lasting but powerful spring with metals and technology they had. Now let's get it closer and see how it works. So let's do from beginning. We cock the hammer and it gets caught by sear, and is under tension of main spring. Now we push the trigger. Trigger pushes through disconnector the sear, and sear disconnects from the hammer. Hammer under pressure goes forward, and then disconnector slides under the sear, and therefore sear spring pushes sear forward. So when bolt pushes the hammer, sear catches the hammer in locked position. Now we release the trigger, and disconnector gets back to the sear. So very easy, very simple to reproduce system. Let's disassemble that. First we remove the trigger. Then we depress sear and can remove the hammer. Next, it will be a little bit hard. We need something to get the sear spring, and it won't be easily possible to remove the sear spring. So first, let's remove the sear, carefully pushing it with screwdriver up. So now we can remove it. That releases tension on sear spring, and we can remove sear spring easily. That's all disassembled. And then for number two guns have a removable barrel. You remove the one screw, and as we removed, we turn barrel upside down, and it's easily removable. So the only thing left is the safety. Unfortunately, I couldn't find drawing of safety, so let's stay them in place. But I think they did the most interesting part of disassembly. So let's look at overall picture. So now let's assemble it back. Interesting, you can assemble it back in any order. Let's start with trigger group. First of all, we put the sear spring. Now it will be a little bit tricky because you need to create tension on spring and push sear down. Usually it takes more than 2 hands, but let's give it a try on camera. So let's try to keep guns in position with palm of my hand, push spring down and push here on the pin. And yeah, it works. See, now we press here a little bit and put the hammer in place. Let's check. Yeah, it cocks and she releases it. Now we put back the trigger and disconnector. Put disconnector down while you're doing that, because if you don't do that, disconnector will get over the series. It won't be possible to get it down. So now we checked that everything works. Now we take the barrel the same way, we just insert and turn it upside down. And then we can just fix it with a screw. We check that trigger works, so we can cover it with a side plate. Put it carefully on pins, push and fix with a screw. Then let's put back grip scales in place, one the other, and fix them in place with screw. Don't forget to use the proper tip for each of screws. Good. Now let's put back the magazine. First the follower, then we cover it with the side plate, then insert the plunger, and yeah, fix it in place with a screw. Yeah, that's the right tip. Let's do it. Now let's check it works. Yeah, everything under the tension, good. So we can put side plate screw in place. The last thing to do is to put bolt back. First we cock the gun, insert the bolt. Again, you need to press a little bit on hammer to insert it. Then we insert the return spring, and it is decompressed, so we will need compress it first before we could insert the that wedge. We use again the punch. Just do it carefully to avoid bending or breaking that spring. So you compress the spring and push the wedge at the same time to catch it in place. Okay, it doesn't go. Let's check. I see it's bent a little bit. Let's fix that. So now it's good, and locking wedge get inside. Make sure that it is exactly in the center. And the last thing, we insert the firing pin using that place for the screw oriented upside. And then fix it with the screw. And that pretty much completes the assembly. I hope it was interesting and useful, and when you have a chance to disassemble your Bergmann to deep cleaning or repair, it won't be that scary anymore. Thanks for watching.